Chapter 926. The Five Members of Heavenly Swords. The commentator liked players with a story behind them. That way, they didn't need to rack their brains trying to think of something to say to introduce them. While he introduced Yu Feng's situation, Yu Feng went on stage, greeted Lu Guaning, and shook his hand. Lu Guaning's reputation as a money warrior made everyone subconsciously imagine him as an arrogant and despotic upstart. Quite a few people were hoping that his arrogant request to challenge Yu Feng would end up with him being slapped fiercely in the face. However, Lu Guaning behaved gracefully and looked happy to chat with Yu Feng. He was only a small character in the pro scene, yet standing alongside an all-star and god, his aura didn't lose out to the other side one bit. From this point of view, no one would think that this was, in fact, a rookie challenge. Rookies weren't experienced and didn't have much knowledge about how to act on stage, so even when Zhao Yuji challenged a god so ambitiously, his aura still felt weak. But for Lu Guaning, he was a player from a newly promoted team. He wasn't a god like Sun Shang or Tang Hao, nor did he have the same energy as Lu Hanwen. He stood on stage very normally, but no one felt like he was any worse compared to Yu Feng. His confidence couldn't have come from his own strength. After all, half a season had passed, and those who paid any attention to him knew very well what level of skill Lu Guaning was at. An owner is truly amazing. All sorts of whispers stirred within the crowd. They clearly recognized that Lu Guaning was no ordinary rookie. As a result, there was no anger or provocation in this confrontation. It didn't have the usual fan-to-idol mentality. Though Lu Guaning clearly explained that his reason for challenging Yu Feng was because Yu Feng was his favorite player, it wasn't that sort of flattery that many new players had towards the gods they admired. It stemmed from his admiration and appreciation towards Yu Feng. The audience misperceived it. They were wondering if he was going to follow up with an, "Are you interested in joining our team?" Lu Guaning didn't end up saying such an inappropriate question. The two went up on stage and used their own characters for the battle. They entered the map and began fighting. The battle was intense. Their blades dripped with blood. This was the berserker fighting style though. Because their skills would be awakened after dropping below 50% health, some players even intentionally took damage to achieve more explosive damage output. Berserkers were a class that personified the strategy of killing 1,000 enemies by sacrificing 800 allies, and were considered the number one class in terms of manliness. At the same time, they were also the most difficult class to heal because, for many clerics, they sometimes didn't know whether the berserker was actually getting hit, or if he was intentionally letting himself get hit in exchange for stronger attacks. Unable to make a clear conclusion, the clerics didn't know what to do. As a result, sometimes clerics would be yelled at for healing and yelled at for not healing. Every berserker hoped for a healer that understood their intentions. Every healer hoped that their team didn't have a berserker. If the team did, they hoped that the berserker wasn't a brave hero who liked to take damage to power up. The battle between Yu Feng and Lu Guaning was intense, but the experts could see that both sides were holding back. Yes, as the god being challenged, Yu Feng held back. As the challenger and rookie, Lu Guaning wasn't going all out either. Yu Feng won the match in the end, but Lu Guaning had lost the match and won the war. After the match ended, both sides went off stage and continued to chat with each other. The two then left the stage together. The rookie challenge on the first day of the All-Star weekend ended with such a friendly match. The event ended. The pro players easily left the stadium through their own private exits. Yi Shu and the others could only squeeze out of the stadium with the rest of the crowd. The exiting was bustling with noise. When they finally got out of the stadium, Chen Guo heard her cell phone ringing. She took it out and took a look. She had 8 missed phone calls, all from one person, Lu Guaning. "Hey, little Lu," Chen Guo picked up the phone and spoke coarsely. She had seen Lu Guaning's grace in the final match of the rookie challenge. Speaking of which, Chen Guo had also been someone who thought of money warriors as arrogant upstarts. After interacting with Heavenly Swords, she slowly changed her view. Now that she personally witnessed Lu Guaning's poise on stage, her initial impression of him had now been completely overturned. Although Lu Guaning was Glory's most famous money warrior, the other side had both skill and style too. Chen Guo felt like she was losing to Lu Guaning as a boss. When she picked up the phone, she anxiously reminded herself. "Ah, it's me. Did you guys come out yet?" Lu Guaning asked. "We're out. What's up?" Is there something going on tonight? Chen Guo tried to be more proactive. Let's go out for a late-night snack. Go out from Tiny Herb's main entrance, cross the skyway, and you'll see a tea restaurant asterisk. We're over there. Room 2, Lu Guaning said. Okay, we're heading over. Chen Guo didn't refuse. They had come here because of his invitation. It didn't make sense to refuse to see him. The group of 4 continued to follow the crowd. There were quite a few people crossing the skyway, but there were also many passionate fans waiting outside the main entrance, holding signs to show their support for their team and idols, waiting to meet them. Lu Guaning and the others had already gone to the tea restaurant across the street and had the time to call her 8 times. Evidently, the pro players did not leave through the main entrance. These fans were too ignorant when it came to gathering information. Yi Shu's group crossed the skywalk and saw the tea restaurant. They went in and asked to go to room 2. An employee immediately brought them over. There were 5 people waiting respectfully in room 2. When they saw the 4 arrive, they immediately got up. One of them was especially excited. He even seemed a little bewildered. This tea restaurant wasn't too high class of a place. The environment was fairly ordinary. It was even a bit crowded with 9 people squeezing into this room. It was the first time meeting each other offline, but Lu Guaning's first words got rid of the feeling of unfamiliarity between them. He smiled and said, "Did you guys see my performance? How was it? God, please give me some advice." Lu Guaning looked at Yi Chu. Even though the 2 sides hadn't introduced each other, he instantly determined who the legendary god Yi Chu was. Haha, you fought too politely, Yi Shu said. He wasn't shy with strangers at all. It even seemed like he was the host. Have a seat, everyone. Why are you all standing? Everyone sat down. Yi Shu impatiently fished out a cigarette. He didn't forget to ask if anyone else wanted one, but the 5 Heavenly Swords people waved their hands and refused. Yi Shu didn't ask if they didn't want to smoke or if they didn't know how. In any case, he grabbed a cigarette and tossed the cigarette pack onto the table. If you guys want one, feel free to take one. Then, he quickly started lighting up his cigarette. Before he could light it, Chen Guo moved her hands like lightning. Hey, show some manners. Ha 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 ha, Lu Guaning laughed. He didn't make any comments and continued, how about you introduce yourselves? Tang Ru, Chen Guo, me, Steamed Bun. Yi Shu quickly introduced everyone from left to right. Bao Rongxing, even though Steamed Bun didn't mind being called Steamed Bun, he still gave his actual name to everyone. Haha, you must be Steamed Bun Invasion, Lu Guaning laughed. It seems like you've heard of my might. Not bad. Steamed Bun was very excited. Lu Guaning was somewhat puzzled. Don't we already know each other? Do you not know who I am? I'm Chasing Haze, Chen Guo introduced her in-game character. I guessed that, Lu Guaning nodded his head. He had only ever met one person, who would shout at God Yi Chu. Soft Mist, Tang Ru half rose out of her chair and introduced herself by her character tag. Oh, the expert. How surprising, Lu Guaning said. He didn't say what was surprising, but anyone smart would know. Soft Mist was a very aggressive battle mage, but the player behind her was a beautiful girl. It was a surprising contrast. I'm Lulan / Lu Guaning began introducing his side. After introducing himself, he pointed to the people beside him. Zhou Yunhai is ocean ahead. Hi everyone, Zhou Yunhai greeted. Wenkabe, homeward bound, Lu Guaning continued. This person was the one who was the most excited, that he wasn't sure what to do when the 4 entered the room. After being introduced by Lu Guaning, he finally couldn't hold back. God, please give me your signature. Show some manners, Lu Guaning also scolded like Chen Guo did. Everyone laughed. Chen Guo felt a myriad of emotions after laughing. In the beginning, she had also been innocent. But now, she glanced at Yi Shu. His cigarette wasn't lit, but he still held it in his mouth. How irritating. This is Gu Xiye. He's our grappler, Night Tide. That's Zhang Yeli. She's our cleric Thousand Falling Leaves. Lu Guaning finished introducing everyone. It was their 5-man group in the game, 4 guys and 1 girl. Your Heavenly Swords isn't only you 5 anymore, Yi Shu said. Yeah, but there's not enough seats, Lu Guaning smiled. He had obviously just come up with this excuse on the spot. He clearly hadn't planned on bringing more people. Those other Heavenly Sword players didn't have any relationship with Yi Shu and the others. It meant that this meetup was because of their friendship in the game. It is a bit tight. Chen Guo saw that everyone was friendly. She didn't pay too much attention to the particulars and commented on the matter. It's just because it's close. There's not much else to do nearby, Lu Guaning said. Then what do you have prepared for this late-night snack? Chen Guo smiled. She was a natural socializer and very easily became familiar with strangers. Yi Shu had experienced this a long time ago. Is there anything you'd like to eat? Lu Guaning asked. Does this place have everything? Chen Guo smiled. No, but if you want, we can have other places deliver food here. Lu Guaning also smiled. Chen Guo stared blankly. How tyrannical. This nouveau riche finally exposed his tyrannical ways. It was best if this topic didn't continue. If not, they might get kicked out of this place. There would always be places where they would be looked down upon. I'm just joking around. It doesn't matter. We didn't come here to eat, Chen Guo said. What? If a late-night snack isn't for eating, then what's it for? Steamed Bun interrupted. Quote. It was best not to talk about certain things with those guys, but for Steamed Bun, it was best not to talk about anything in general. Asterisk the official translation would be Cha Chan Tang, and they usually serve Hong Kong cuisine and Hong Kong-style Western cuisine. The tea part of it is to distinguish the tea restaurants from Western restaurants that serve water. It's different from a tea house, which generally just serves tea. Chapter 927. Heavenly Sword's Bad Friend. With glory as a common ground, Yi Shu's group and Lu Guaning's group naturally had much to talk about. Both parties talked joyously. It was just like Chen Guo said, eating wasn't the main focus of this meetup. It could even be said that none of them wanted the night to end. Lu Guaning invited the four of them to visit their team Heavenly Swords tomorrow. After all, City B was also Heavenly Sword's home city. The All-Stars event only took place at night, so no one had much to do during the daytime. Yi Shu's group obviously had no reason to refuse. As a result, after scheduling it for sometime the next day, the two groups went back to their respective living places. Next morning, Lu Guaning drove his car over to their hotel and brought Yi Shu's group over to Heavenly Sword's base. How is it? It's not bad, no. Lu Guaning stood proudly underneath their team's logo hanging on top of the main entrance. Team Heavenly Sword's logo was the same as their guild's. It was a picture of that famous sword, Swordpoint. However, the artist who drew it was clearly very skilled. It had been shrunken into a logo, but it was still easily recognized. As for the logo hanging above their main entrance, it was even bigger than a person. The picture of Swordpoint was even larger than if the in-game weapon was scaled to life size. Look, that place over there is our stadium. Lu Guaning pointed towards another direction at a stadium that didn't lose out to tiny herbs. Incredible, Yi Shu praised. He was sincere. From this arena, Lu Guaning's pride towards his success and glory could be seen. In the Alliance, not every pro team had their own stadium. Many teams rented someone else's stadium and used it as their home ground. In order to build a standard stadium seen in the Alliance, the construction costs would reach hundreds of millions. It definitely wasn't something an ordinary club could afford. Only the powerhouses in the Alliance had their own stadiums. These weren't only used for glory either, they could also be used as normal sport venues. When it wasn't a match day, it was rented out for all sorts of activities. It was an important part of a club's income. Team Heavenly Swords had just entered the Alliance. Their futures were unknown, yet they had already invested a huge sum into a stadium already. Lu Guaning wasn't a profligate who never treated money seriously. His decision to construct this stadium showed his determination towards glory. Shall we take a look at the stadium? Lu Guaning asked. There'll be opportunities in the future, Yi Shu smiled. Lu Guaning stared blankly for a second, but then understood. He laughed. When the time comes, please go easy on us. How much money are you planning on giving us? Yi Shu asked. F***ck, Lu Guaning shrunk back and looked left and right as if he had seen a ghost. If you say it so directly, we'll definitely be punished by the Alliance, no? Ha ha ha, of course, Yi Shu was obviously familiar with the Alliance's rules. They would certainly be punished severely for violating the competitive integrity of the league. They had just been joking around. If it had been for real, they would have to take legal responsibility. Let's hurry up and go. Lu Guaning hastily brought everyone inside as if the Alliance would discover them immediately if they kept standing outside the base. If Lu Guaning was willing to spend money on a stadium, how could their facilities be lacking? After passing through a relaxing green garden, they reached the center of Club Heavenly Swords. Chen Guo felt ashamed. Compared to the other side, her huge investment into their grand gaming house was nothing. Team Happy's players were so pitiful. Thinking of this, Chen Guo couldn't help but steal a glance at the others from Happy. The other three wore their usual expressions. After Steamed Bun saw the practice center, he even grumbled, "Why's it so far away? Our Happy is so much more convenient. It only takes a few steps to reach there after passing through the entrance to the neighborhood." Neighborhood? Lu Guaning was at a loss. Yeah, Forest Park. It's a high-class neighborhood. From Steamed Bun's appearance, he seemed to be even more proud than when Lu Guaning had been standing beneath Team Heavenly Sword's logo and pointing at his stadium. Shut up, Steamed Bun. Chen Guo felt even more embarrassed. Even though she knew that the difference between the two sides were night and day, Chen Guo couldn't help but compare herself to Lu Guaning as a boss, naturally making her want to cry. Steamed Bun was still feeling proud though. Chen Guo felt like she had been stabbed in the heart. What? Steamed Bun scratched his head in confusion. Come. Please come in. Lu Guaning didn't understand what was going on and immediately shifted topics, inviting everyone inside. The inside of the building was naturally luxurious. There was a leisure area, a gym, and so on, none of which Happy had. Chen Guo once again felt ashamed, and then Steamed Bun started talking again and instantly killed her with one question: where are the computers? Ah, we're almost there, Lu Guaning said, slightly embarrassed. He quickened the pace. They soon arrived at Team Heavenly Sword's practice room. The entire team was here. This time, it wasn't just the 5-man crew. The other 6 recruited players were there too. Although these players were nameless, they still possessed pro-level skills. Practically all of them had once been a part of a pro team. Even though they hadn't directly been involved in the interactions between their team and Team Happy, they were still a part of Team Heavenly Swords, so they had an understanding of their relationship between them. They gave a greeting and took a seat. 3 sentences hadn't been spoken yet, and they were already chatting about glory. This place had such a good atmosphere and such great conditions. If they said that they wouldn't going to practice, it would be too impolite. Everyone was itching to play. Shall we play a round? Lu Guaning said. Yishu hadn't been able to reply, when a very loud and clear laugh came in from outside the practice room. Ha 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 ha, I'm back. Where's old Lu? Hurry and come out? Yishu didn't understand what was going on. He looked at Lu Guaning and saw that his face had turned ugly. He strode forward to close the door quickly, but the other side had already reached the door and held the door in place. Hey. What are you doing? I see you. Don't hide. Helpless, Lu Guaning could only let him in. As a result, a person dressed brightly and neatly swaggered and flamboyantly. He completely fit the image of a rich person's son with white silken breeches. He looked around the room. He clearly wasn't a stranger to Heavenly Swords players and gave a polite greeting to Zhou Yunhai and the others. As for the remaining 6 Heavenly Sword players, he directly ignored them. His gaze then fell onto the few from Happy. The sight of Chen Guo and Tang Ru, 2 pretty girls, made his eyes light up. Wow, old Lu. You've recruited again. It seems like you've got good eyes this time. The newcomer blabbered noisily. Why haven't you left yet? Lu Guaning asked. Ha ha ha, you're scared, the newcomer said. I'm just annoyed, okay, Lu Guaning said. I'm doing this for you. Look at your team and their record. I'm ashamed on your behalf. Improving your skill level is something you need to urgently do, the newcomer reproached. This person's attitude made others feel disgusted. If it was Chen Guo and this took place in her domain, she would have already erupted, but this was Lu Guaning's place, so she didn't do anything. She was astonished when she heard these words. He sounded like he had some ability. Before any conclusions could be made, he already waved his hands. Wait a bit. When it's convenient for me, I'll immediately come back. After saying these words, he ran out the door to the restroom. He was very familiar with the way there. It was as if Heavenly Swords was his own home. Who was that? Yishu and the others were curious. Lu Guaning let out an expression of helplessness. He's my childhood friend. We've known each other since we were young. Now that I've created a team, one of his pleasures is to find all sorts of ways to bother me. When he has nothing to do, he'll introduce experts for us to fight. He's so annoying. What's wrong with that? Chen Guo didn't understand. Lu Guaning looked gloomy, because if we lose even once, he'll blabber about it for an entire year. How many times have you lost? Chen Guo asked. Lu Guaning couldn't bear to reply, 3 times, even though the people he finds aren't that good, but after enough times, an accident is bound to happen. Little bei, that shouldn't have happened that time, Zhou Yunhai said. That time Xie lost wasn't any better, Wen Kebei complained at the injustice and shifted the subject. Old Lu losing that match was the worst, Gu Xie also shifted the aggro. They shifted the blame back and forth. This wasn't how a team should deal with conflicts, but it could also be seen that none of them really considered it very important. They still felt quite annoyed at it though, which was why they were blaming others. Who knows who he's found this time? Old Lu, hurry and lock the door. I locked it last time too, but this guy set up a tent outside the door and almost started a barbecue outside. The 5 entered a lively discussion. The others didn't chime in. Anyone with eyes could see that, although Lu Guaning and the other 4 appeared annoyed at him, they were undoubtedly friends. Their relationship wasn't shallow either. How else could he keep invading the team's practice room again and again? But from this guy's behavior, he was clearly a bad friend. The 5 were still chatting with each other. Their bad friend's voice had already sounded out from outside their door, I'm back. Old Lu, are you ready? This time, don't run. He's challenging you. Oh, old Lu is up, the other 4 hollered. I don't have time, Lu Guaning replied roughly. Haha, I don't think it'll take too much of your time, the bad friend laughed and already entered the room. Old Lu, don't hold back. Go, the other 4 saw that the target was Lu Guaning and started urging him to accept the challenge. Lu Guaning thought for a moment. He walked around in a circle and then picked a seat to sit down. Hurry up and have your people come. As he said this, he took out his account card, but first logged into QQ. God, help me teach this punk a very good lesson, Lu Guaning messaged Yishu. Then, he tossed his account card to him. Under the cover of a row of monitors, the account card slid to Yishu's hands without anyone else noticing. Isn't that a little too cruel? Sure enough, Yishu was on QQ, and he replied. Yeah, the crueler the better. Kill him in a second and not a second and a half, Lu Guaning replied. Chapter 928. Not an easy opponent. Where's your guy? Lu Guaning's confidence instantly skyrocketed after handing his account card to Yishu, giving a courageous yell. You seem very spirited, old Lu. Don't be impatient. Your opponent will be here soon. Saying this, he made to walk over. Don't come over. I won't give you a chance in hell, Lu Guaning feigned worry about the other sneaking a peek and cheating. In reality, he was just afraid that the other would come over and his action of getting Yishu to fight in his stead would be exposed. Wow, so serious? The more serious you are, the worse off you'll be. He shook his head, sighing. Though they were frenemies with one another, they were familiar with one another and knew each other well. Seeing how his guest was, Lu Guaning was quite surprised. This guy was strangely confident. Though this person didn't really play Glory himself, he interacted all too often with Lu Guaning and other Glory fans, and now came to try and throw a blow at Team Heavenly Swords. He had some sense of judgment. He was clear about Lu Guaning's current skill. A randomly found expert player probably wouldn't be able to handle Lu Guaning team, so the only thing he could hope for was that Lu Guaning would make some mistakes in the match and then mock them over the result. Now he was so confident from the start, had he found some sort of incredible player? Otherwise, with the high chance of failing that a normal expert would have, wouldn't his confidence be equal to holding his face out to be slapped? Lu Guaning was a little doubtful, but when remembering that a god was using his account, he felt much steadier. However, he still acted shocked after seeing this guy's confidence, so that the other side wouldn't see through him and asked, who did you find? Being friends was a two-way road. As Lu Guaning understood him, he also understood Lu Guaning. The other had displayed excessive confidence, so Lu Guaning had to seem not too confident to avoid suspicion. Haha, you'll see, the other said. This guy, he hadn't managed to get a pro player, had he? Lu Guaning mumbled to himself. After all, it was the All-Star weekend, so all of Glory's pro players were gathered in City B. If this guy was willing to do whatever necessary to strike a blow at him, then he might have truly gotten a pro player to play for him. As he was thinking, a figure came sight in the doorway. Lu Guaning stood up to take a look. Unfamiliar. This guy wasn't a pro player. Great, you're here. Then shall we start? His frenemy looked eager, and made himself at home, giving his guest a seat at random. The guest didn't bother talking, sitting down and taking out an account card from his pocket, swiping it and logging in. Room number. Lu Guaning secretly sent the message to Yi Shu and announced it loudly after getting a reply. The opponent's character quickly logged in and arrived at the arena, finding the room. The crowd had long since come to the room with their account cards to spectate. Using an account card to spectate made things much clearer than looking over one of the player's shoulders. Lu Guaning himself was also among the crowd, watching the opponent enter the room with everyone else with his smurf. Another summer of sleep. Their opponent's name was rather interesting, and, upon seeing the class, Lu Guaning immediately understood why he was the one challenged. This another summer of sleep was also a berserker. Let's go with the usual rules. Random map, one match game, Lu Guaning said. You don't want a few extra chances? His frenemy asked. I don't have the time, Lu Guaning grumbled. Let's start. As he spoke, Yi Shu very cooperatively chose the random map option, and begun the match. The countdown ended and the two were loaded into the map. Their randomly selected map was the one-on-one indoors map, Tavern. One-on-one maps were never very large, but compared to the most commonly used map Arena, which was chosen when neither side wanted to spend too much time making a decision, it was much larger. For indoors maps, having many rooms was more annoying than having many obstacles. For this tavern, there were 5 interconnected rooms along with an underground wine cellar, a total of 6 rooms. Yi Shu's Lulan Slash and another summer of sleep were each in their own rooms, not knowing where the other was and walking to their respective rooms' exits. All the spectators went to check out another summer of sleep's equipment. The equipment of normal players' accounts could never compare to pro accounts. Yet, with the big update, normal players had a chance to close the gap between them and pros. However, this was just a chance. Was level 75 orange equipment something just anyone could get? Yet when everyone checked another summer of sleep's equipment, they were shocked. He had 4 pieces of level 75 orange equipment already, and this included an orange weapon, broadsword edgeless. There was no need to mention the eye-catching level 75 orange equipment stats, but there was also a bonus effect at the end, Shatter, which increased the amount of durability equipment would lose in battle. This was a vicious ability to have. What was weapon durability? It was money. If you simply found a blacksmith or something to repair your equipment in Glory, the equipment's maximum durability would decrease with each repair until it reached the lowest it could get and was no longer repairable. In order to prevent the maximum from dropping, you needed to find special materials to repair it with. The better the equipment, the more expensive the materials needed were. That meant, the better the equipment, the more money its durability was worth. This durability-wrecking weapon was like a thorn directly in his opponent's head. What was even more terrifying, was if they entered a long-endurance battle, then this durability-destroying weapon might even manage to use up all of its opponent's weapon's durability. In Glory, the lowest durability was 1, if the durability fell to 0, the equipment would break and become more useless than trash. Could it be that this guy specifically got a weapon like this just to destroy our equipment? Lu Guaning silently began to suspect again. Though the equipment of Team Heavenly Swords was comparatively low quality in the pro circle, it was still leagues above normal players. That was why, when this frenemy found people to play for them, they would provide the equipment. This guy might not be anything in Glory, but so long as you had money, getting equipment and other gear was rather easy. In order to make trouble for Lu Guaning and entertain himself, this guy was very willing to make these sorts of investments. It must be that guy's plan. Lu Guaning glared at his frenemy. However, with a god at the helm, Lu Guaning was certain that these schemes wouldn't work. The 2 berserkers darted about within the tavern. Neither of them ran into the wine cellar, simply darting between the 5 rooms in an attempt to find each other. Finally, in one of the rooms, the 2 characters barged in through different doors and met each other. Collapsing Mountain. The one that struck first was Yi Shu, using a very typical engaging move for berserkers. His opponent was very familiar with these mainstream tactics. Another summer of sleep jumped back slightly, and attacked with a sword draw, swinging his board sword through the air. Collapsing Mountain's priority wasn't any lower than sword draw, so this sword draw wouldn't be able to send Lulan Slash, who was in the middle of performing a Collapsing Mountain, flying, but would still deal the damage. After completing this sword draw in close quarters, another Summer of Sleep jumped back a little again, accurately avoiding the range of even Collapsing Mountain's shockwave. Yi Shu was secretly rather shocked. This guy's counter-attack with just these two jumps, the first jump was to avoid the blade itself so he could counterattack at the closest possible distance, and the second was to avoid the aftereffects of Collapsing Mountain that sword draw couldn't negate. The timing of these two jumps was incredibly precise. Finesse could be seen from this detail, and coincidences didn't happen twice. Yi Shu immediately became more serious towards this. If this was a random opponent, he would probably not care if Collapsing Mountain had hit or not and directly continue striking down and attacking. However, after seeing the two jumps, Yi Shu realized that if he continued this attack without care, then he would be struck down by the other's counterattacks. So, without waiting for the Collapsing Mountain to finish, he cancelled the skill in midair and switched to a guard. With a loud clang, the sword draw hit Lulan Slash's guard, and Lulan Slash took this moment to land. The two berserkers, in the first clash of their broadswords, had both chosen to use blade master skills. The sound of the two broadswords clashing caused Lu Guaning's heart to jump. Who knew how much durability disappeared with this sound alone? As Lulan Slash landed, Colliding Stab was immediately activated. The move was so swift it seemed like the character hadn't even landed and flew straight over. The other had obviously not expected such skill from their side, harried as he dodged the Colliding Stab. Yi Shu had Lulan Slash follow up with a Whirlwind Strike. The other's movements were swift as well, also using Whirlwind Strike. The two berserkers wildly swung their respective broadswords at each other, the sound of the weapons clashing ringing out over and over again as blood splashed, their health dropping. With Whirlwind Strike, it was required for a player to tech and change the angles of each swings to maximize damage. The two were obviously both teching the Whirlwind Strike, sometimes striking their opponent, sometimes parrying. By the time the two skills ended as one, the damage each of them had taken was about the same. As for the health of their weapons, the durability, Lulan Slash was definitely at a disadvantage. Not bad. The two thought to themselves. This sort of clash between two of the same skills was the best at portraying one skill. If they ended up with approximately the same result, that meant their skills were at around the same level. Just who was this person? Yi Shu couldn't help but carefully consider this question. How many people in the Glory Circle could fight him to a standstill? Yi Shu hadn't thought anything of it and didn't bother to look when the other came, but now he realized that this opponent wasn't easy to beat. If he wanted to look again, it was too late, because the two screens were in the way. As for the challenger, he wasn't as surprised as Yi Shu. After all, he thought his opponent was Lu Guaning and Lu Guaning was a pro player. It wasn't surprising that they would be about the same skill level. Again. Neither side spoke, only letting the word ring in their heads. The characters struck as one, broadswords a streak of crimson shadow. With another loud clang, this wild blood strike, both striking at similar angles, became parries in the end. Lu Guaning's heart was breaking. God, don't play around like this. If you continue like this, you'll break my equipment. Please show a little more variation. Chapter 929. Wild exchange of skills. The wild blood strikes hit and both characters entered a short stun from the impact. Then in the moment that the stun ended, the characters attacked at almost exactly the same time. With a whoosh, the two berserkers both sent out a gore cross. This skill consisted of one horizontal strike and a vertical one. For two characters, that was a total of 4 strikes, yet only 2 clashes sounded out. The two had attacked at exactly the same time, even the sound effects were simultaneous. Clang! Clang! The gore cross clashed again, throwing sparks out. There wasn't much in an impact from these low-level skills, so the two characters didn't pause in their movements. However, after this strike, Lulan Slash's broadsword's durability had gone down by a point. It wasn't like durability fell quickly, otherwise under this sort of design, who could be able to afford maintaining their equipment? It was because these two fought too wildly, meeting attack with attack, that their equipment would take so much wear. In a game like Glory, there were many small details like this. If you considered the addition of another Summer of Sleep's edgeless bonus effect, Shatter, Lulan Slash's weapon's durability was draining rather quickly. This 1-point drop in durability had Lu Guaning's heart in his throat. Like a scaredy cat, Lu Guaning silently opened up a calculator. He wanted to calculate how long this battle could go on according to the time it took for this 1-point drop in durability. Yet, before he even finished calculating, the situation changed. The two stopped meeting attacks with attacks, but instead started a fierce exchange of skills. However, this exchange of skills was a little too wild. There was little to no dodging or parrying, just exchanging hit for hit. Blood spurted from the two characters uncontrollably, and both berserkers' broadswords were stained crimson with realistic blood. When they paused, there would be drops of blood that fell to the ground. Though the two characters were both berserkers, they had different equipment. That meant their health, defense, attack, etc. would all be different. However, after this exchange, the percentage of damage each character had taken about the same. That was enough to show that there was a method to this seemingly crude exchange of blows. If it wasn't for the fact that they could maintain this balance, one side might have broken off from this exchange. Their silent agreement allowed both characters to reduce their health to 50%. The two berserkers paused in their attacks. Half health was a special point for berserkers. Their passive skill, Blood Awakening, would be activated at half health. From this point on, the lower health the berserker had, the higher their damage would be. From now onwards, how to exchange health for power was all a test for the player. Lu Guaning was also a berserker player, and seeing the pause between the two, immediately understood what was going on. These two had probably realized in their first few tryouts of their opponent's ability that the other wasn't an easy opponent, so they had decided to simply skip the first half of their health and enter the berserker's Blood Awakening state to settle this. The two's true ability would only be shown in the following clash. Lu Guaning was extremely curious who this person was who could go toe-to-toe with a god. He wanted to stand up and take a better look, but he was currently pretending to fight a match, so he could only wait impatiently. Everyone was focused on watching this match, and as the two paused in their movements, silence reigned in the room for a moment. The two berserkers slowly raised their broadswords and began to circle each other step by step. Every action was extremely careful. Whoosh! A bloody streak of energy shot out. Another Summer of Sleep was the first to attack. Slashing his left hand on the edge of his sword, he made a blood sword. Yi Shu had Lulan slash quickly sidestep it. Another Summer of Sleep had already began another attack, a colliding stab bringing the character charging over with his sword. Yi Shu almost seemed like he couldn't react in time, Lulan slash standing still in place. Yet, in the moment they came into contact, he suddenly acted and the two swords collided once more. Clang! The loud noise caused Lu Guaning's heart to stutter again. These two weren't going to start again, were they? Yet the results weren't so. In this collision, Lulan slash was definitely at a disadvantage. Though Yi Shu had also responded with a colliding stab, in that instant, to resist another Summer of Sleeps, another Summer of Sleep had a running start, so the momentum of the attack was very different from Lulan slash's. This clash of similar skills was another Summer of Sleep's victory, and Lulan slash skidded backwards. Not only did his weapon durability take a hit this time, his shoes probably lost quite a bit, too. But with the current situation, Lu Guaning couldn't spare any heart to care about that. This action by the god was an obvious error. At times like this, what you needed was a purely defensive move like guard. Parrying wouldn't be able to neutralize the charged energy from colliding stab. How could such a mistake happen with this god? Did he have a plan? Lu Guaning quickly thought of this. As expected, Lulan slash, who had been pushed back, swiftly countered with a collapsing mountain. Another Summer of Sleep took this hit full force, from head to toe. He had no way of avoiding it, because he was still in the ending lag for colliding stab's animation and was locked in place for a moment by it. This was the timing Yi Shu used to strike back. Nice one! Lu Guaning almost yelled aloud. Using colliding stab to defend, Yi Shu couldn't neutralize the impact from his opponent's colliding stab, but managed to neutralize the small stun the last impact would have on him. This allowed him to counterattack immediately. A collapsing mountain was timed just right, making his opponent incapable of avoiding it. With this, their exchange of skills had become 2 for 1, with Yi Shu obviously at an advantage. Collapsing mountain hit full on, dealing much more damage than what little another Summer of Sleep had dealt using his higher priority move. In addition, analyzing this from a berserker's point of view, Yishu's choice to react with a colliding stab was a way of trading a little bit of health, allowing his attack to increase in strength. How spectacular! Lu Guaning was, after all, a player of this class, and was able to instantly organize the information within the situation. In comparison to those who weren't familiar with glory and just here to spectate, he was able to obtain way more information. This collapsing mountain was just a start. When had a pro player's combo ever only consisted of one skill? Anytime you manage to hit your opponent, you should always follow up with a flurry of attacks. That was a part of being a pro player. As soon as the collapsing mountain hit the ground, a backslash following immediately. Then his body began to glow with a bloody light, using Berserk, Gore Cross, Heavy Hit. A string of skills landed. When Berserk neared its end, a wild blood strike came down and sent another summer of sleep spinning through the air. Lulan Slash didn't let up, slashing his left hand on the edge of his blade and activating a blood sword, getting one last strike in. After this, Berserk came to an end and Lulan Slash didn't keep chasing after, watching as another summer of sleep landed, rolling to his feet. This torrent of attacks directly chunked 15% of another summer of sleep's health. Lu Guaning wasn't here just for fun, he was also analyzing as the battle went on. If it were a normal player, they would try to get in as high of a combo as possible after the first hit, as if that would maximize the damage. However, the torrent of attacks unleashed by that god didn't pursue that. He had accurately utilized Berserk's period of effect, and his choice of skills was all focused on control. They were all skills that made it hard for his opponent to break his combo. The combo wasn't long, but its effects were impressive. Berserk's period of effect had been used to its fullest potential, taking 15% of health with it. If it was a normal player, they probably wouldn't be able to do as much damage even with a longer combo, and that was disregarding the possibility of their opponent breaking out of their combo. So smart, so much depth. Lu Guaning thought in awe, but at this moment, another summer of sleep adjusted himself and immediately began to counterattack. His character didn't use a skill, but rapidly approached Lulan Slash. Yishu, of course, wouldn't back down. Lulan Slash charged forth to meet him. The two berserkers still had quite a bit of distance between them when another summer of sleep attacked first again. Colliding stab, it was colliding stab again. Was this guy's style so simple? Lu Guaning mumbled to himself. This skill again, wasn't he afraid of getting beaten the same way again? Yet this time, Yishu didn't use the same method as last time, but instead had Lulan Slash dodge this attack. Why? Lulan Slash was confused. Having struck air, another summer of sleep immediately cancelled the skill and his left hand grabbed out, crimson as if blood were pouring from his grasp. Soul-devouring Crimson Grip. This was an AoE control skill, and all the characters in the range of soul-devouring Crimson Grip would be gripped by the aura of blood and dragged towards the character that used the skill. However, this skill only took control of the target's movement, and not any other actions. Being pulled over didn't affect the other's ability to mount an offense. So, this skill would usually be used against ranged characters. For melee characters, it was just like giving them an accelerator. Another summer of sleep's atypical decision confused Lu Guaning. As for Yishu's Lulan Slash, he used this to power up a colliding stab, charging at his opponent. Clang! This was the sound of weapons colliding that made Lu Guaning's heart ache the most. Another summer of sleep didn't back down, but swung his sword to meet his opponent, using a whirlwind strike. The two swords clashed, and though whirlwind strike was a higher level skill, it couldn't neutralize the impact of colliding stab. Another summer of sleep was knocked to the side, but he would have never thought that after sliding back 2 steps, another summer of sleep would forcibly take a step forwards and strike Lulan Slash with another hit from Whirlwind Slash. Slide back, advance, strike. Another summer of sleep continued to use this strange routine to attack, and Lulan Slash quickly understood that he was using Whirlwind Strike's controllable movement effect to neutralize the impact of colliding stab. It was too confident. Lulan Slash was secretly shocked. If you had him go and complete these mechanics, he wouldn't have the confidence to do so. Then, another summer of sleep made another action that Lulan Slash couldn't understand. After Whirlwind Strike neutralized the knockback, another summer of sleep resolutely cancelled this skill and activated a new skill. By then, Whirlwind Slash still had at least a third of its time left. Why would he give up on the damage of the rest of this attack? Gore cross, destruction / Another summer of sleep began a series of attacks as well, but Lu Guaning didn't think much of it. A god could easily break this sort of combo, right? Yet the combo was never broken and Lulan / took it all. Lu Guaning was shocked. What was this? Trading health? Chapter 930. Calculating is useless. The two inactive pro players were fighting a match even more difficult to understand than what was seen on stage in the alliance. For a moment, Lu Guaning couldn't figure it out. It wasn't rare for berserkers to trade health, but God's way of doing it was just too unprofessional. No one was going to just stand there and let the opponent hack them to increase their damage. The correct way should be like when Yi Shu used colliding stab previously. It was calculative, and it had a purpose. From a long-term perspective, trading skills should make up for the health lost, especially in a 1v1. Perhaps he was waiting for the right moment to break the opponent's combo and counterattack? Lu Guaning could only guess. As a result, he began viewing the fight from this perspective and looked for openings. Lu Guaning's eyes lit up. This opening was too good. He could use Wild Blood Strike and directly counterattack. It should be here, right? During the time it took Lu Guaning to think of all that, Lulan / was hit again. Why is he not using it? Lu Guaning was depressed. It was such a good opportunity. Suddenly, Lu Guaning realized where the issue lay. Using Wild Blood Strike to forcefully counter the attack was certainly a good choice, but could Lulan / make this choice at that moment? His Wild Blood Strike was probably on cooldown. As a result, Lu Guaning instantly understood. When he carefully recalled another Summer of Sleep's offense, Lu Guaning realized that those places, which he thought could be broken, were only in theory. In reality, those combos corresponded perfectly with Lulan /'s skill cooldowns, leading these combos to be incapable of being broken. Yi Shu wasn't trading his health away, but was truly being suppressed. The person at the scene is baffled, but the onlooker sees clearly. That saying wasn't always true. If you weren't the player, some details could easily be missed. In that case, the saying should be that the person at the scene sees clear, but the onlooker is baffled. After recognizing this point, Lu Guaning also immediately realized that God being on the defensive was about to end. Skills wouldn't permanently be on cooldown. After using Wild Blood Strike, Lulan /'s skills had already been refreshed, but if another Summer of Sleep was able to figure out his opponent's cooldowns and create such a combo, how could he not know that? After this attack, another Summer of Sleep quickly activated Berserk. He dragged on the previous wave of attacks using Berserk and ended the combo with a high-level skill. 28%. Another Summer of Sleep's wave of attacks lowered Lulan /'s health by 28%. Lulan /'s previous combo had only taken away 15% of his health, so under the effects of Blood Awakening, he possessed powerful combat stats. In addition, his combo had been far longer than Lulan /'s. His combo was terrifyingly strong. Lu Guaning couldn't help but be worried for Yi Shu. Another Summer of Sleep's precise calculations and comboing proved that he was absolutely a top-tier expert. The opposing berserker's skill level was a good level higher than his own. Lu Guaning didn't think he would have the ability to complete a chain of attacks taking the opponent's cooldowns so precisely into account, even more so facing a god. Lu Guaning had all sorts of thoughts. The battle didn't stop though. After taking an enormous amount of damage, the first thing that Yi Shu did was have Lulan / counterattack. He was also taking advantage of the opponent's cooldowns. Lu Guaning watched with understanding this time. He understood this strategy, but he couldn't utilize it as perfectly as another Summer of Sleep. His set of combos made it seem as if the holes in Lulan /'s skill cooldowns were lined up one after the other. His efficiency was unimaginably high. If this guy could do it, God could probably do it too, no? Lu Guaning was incomparably confident on this point, but he didn't consider that if another Summer of Sleep could do it, then he would also be wary of it too. When the two berserkers clashed again, Yi Shu didn't quickly gain the upper hand like Lu Guaning had imagined. Another Summer of Sleep had been fighting wildly the entire time. Once he gained a clear advantage, he suddenly became a lot more conservative and emphasized defense. The two characters once again began trading blows to reduce their health. At the moment, another Summer of Sleep had more health, while Lulan / had less, but because of the existence of Blood Awakening, his attack power was stronger. As a result, trading blows became more complicated. Which skill to choose required precise calculation. The pace of the battle was still extremely fast, as if neither side wanted to give the other time to carefully think. As the blood splattered, the health of the two characters dropped. The observers watched the numbers change to see which side was winning or losing the exchanges. God was slightly winning, Lu Guaning concluded. Before, he had even pulled out a calculator to compute the loss in stamina for both sides. Later, he got so absorbed into the battle and forgot to close it. Now, he took it out again and nimbly computed it, reaching a conclusion very quickly. This slightly winning wasn't enough, because God's health value was lower. If this trade continued, Lulan Slash would be the one to fall first, unless he could suddenly find an opportunity to deal over 5% of his opponent's health. However, with how cautious both sides were being, this type of opportunity would be unlikely to occur. Lu Guaning was anxious. After looking for a bit, he suddenly discovered that the health of the two characters wasn't decreasing at the same rate as he had predicted. Lu Guaning took out his calculator again and confirmed a discrepancy with his previous calculations. After puzzling over it for a bit, he soon figured it out. It was because it was a battle between two berserkers. As their health fell, their attack power would constantly be changing, so trading attacks was much more complicated for them than with other classes. In this confrontation, besides testing the knowledge and technical skill of the two sides, it also tested their ability to calculate while fighting. But due to the fast pace of the battle, it might be very difficult to do that for someone like Lu Guaning, who was using a calculator to make precise calculations. In this battle, their calculations most likely came from experience and intuition alone. The two continued fighting. Lu Guaning had a calculator in his hands. He thought that he would have a better grasp of the situation than the two players, but in reality, because of how their battle strength changed as their health decreased, there wasn't much point in Lu Guaning calculating anything because he couldn't make any future inferences based on the numbers. As for deciding who was winning, just looking at the health on both sides was enough. Calculating wasn't necessary. Lu Guaning was calculating wildly like an idiot until the health of the two sides kept surprising him. Only then did he suddenly realize that he was being stupid. It was pointless to calculate. The only thing that could be concluded was the overall situation. After a series of back and forths, another Summer of Sleep's health was at 10%, while Lulan Slash's health was at 7%. There had originally been a 13% difference, but it had been pulled closer by 10%. Lu Guaning immediately started playing with his calculator again. By checking the rate at which their health dropped from trades, he realized that if Yishu could keep this rate up, using his 7% to make a comeback over the enemy 10% was set in stone. He really does deserve to be called a god. Lu Guaning's worship for God increased, but then, the situation abruptly changed. The trading of attacks was disrupted. Another Summer of Sleep suddenly began fighting for the initiative. Tisk tisk, Lu Guaning sighed, this guy's skill level is really high. He's realized that if this continues, he'll lose. He has to put his all into the fight. But I'm sure that this is all within God's calculations. He must be prepared, right? From Lulan Slash's response, Yishu had been prepared, but not longer afterwards, Lu Guaning discovered that Lulan Slash was still being suppressed. 6%. 5%. 4%. Even though it wasn't considered a combo by the system, it was clear that another Summer of Sleep held the upper hand. Blow after blow reduced Lulan Slash's health. He himself was also losing health, but with his health advantage, as long as the trading between both sides was equal, the one to fall in the end would be Lulan Slash. How is that possible? Lu Guaning was shocked. Victory and defeat was about to be decided. He felt so nervous that he couldn't calmly analyze the situation anymore and glanced at God sitting over there. Yishu's expression was as calm as ever. His hands never stopped moving. However, he let out a light sigh. It didn't escape Lu Guaning's eyes. He's going to lose. Lu Guaning realized. He turned his head to check on the battle. Lulan Slash's health had fallen to 1%. Another Summer of Sleep's health was still around 5%. In the final stage of the battle, not only was Yishu not able to pull the health disparity closer, the other side had increased the health difference to 4%. Will there be a miracle? Lu Guaning was still looking forward to it. Lulan Slash fell in the end. Yishu had lost. Who is this guy? Lu Guaning's astonishment couldn't be described using words. He knew that there was always a winner and a loser in a glory match. No one was invincible. Even God had lost numerous times in the pro scene, but he could not accept the reality in front of him. It wasn't just him. Chen Guo, Tang Ru, and Steamed Bun were so shocked that it looked like they had just seen the impossible. Even when Lulan Slash only had 1% health remaining, they thought Yi Shu would immediately suddenly burst out. It was only when Lulan Slash actually fell did they come back to reality. For them, Yi Shu losing was even more shocking than Yi Shu suddenly make a comeback with just 1% health left. The practice room was completely silent. Lu Guaning's bad friend unexpectedly didn't jump out to start taunting him despite it being such a rare victory for him. For Lu Guaning's friends, this was definitely a miracle. This bad friend was also staring into blank space when the match ended. This match had been extremely thrilling and intense. Even someone like him, who only had mediocre interest in glory, was sucked in. A moment later, this guy came back to reality. He didn't immediately begin mocking Lu Guaning. Instead, he stood up and stared at him. His face was filled with astonishment. "Old Lu, when did you become so good? Your skill level is truly exceptional. Even though I won that match, who knows if I'd win again if we played another round. We'd have to start over from the beginning." Another Summer of Sleep also stood up and looked at Lu Guaning. Lu Guaning couldn't sit still. He felt very ashamed. He was just about to admit the truth, when another Summer of Sleep suddenly shouted, "What the F***CK? Why are you here?" What? Lu Guaning looked over in confusion. He saw that another Summer of Sleep's astonishment was directed at Yi Shu. "It's you." No wonder, Yi Shu also looked over at the other guy. His expression was much more calm. "You guys know each other." Everyone else in the room was surprised. Yi Chu. When another Summer of Sleep said this name, there was clearly a bit of anger within. Sun Jeping, Yi Shu was still rather calm.